Welcome to session 7 of My B2B Coach's 5 Tips. Excited to have Jay Fairbrother with me. He's an executive coach for My B2B Coach. Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and then share your 5 sales tips today?
Thanks, John. Happy to be here. I have been a serial entrepreneur for the last 25 years. Through that process, I have started, created, built many sales organizations and trained thousands of salespeople in the last 30 years. So I love talking about sales, and I'm really excited to be part of My B2B Coach.
Excellent. Well, let's go through your 5 tips.
All right. So first tip, a lot of people, these tips are the kind of things that a lot of people are trained on in Sales 101, but it's amazing how many people don't necessarily follow them. So find ways to be perceived as a resource, find relevant articles, provide needs, leads, and resources. I always like to ask, how else can I help you? I talk to a lot of business owners all day long. I know a lot of people in town. Tell me what else you're looking for. It doesn't even have to be related to the product or service that you offer, but just how can I help be a resource for you? Maybe find you, a lawn care provider that you happen to be looking for, and I know one. And this is especially important whether you get the sale or not. Position yourself as a resource. 2 is questions. Now, again, that seems like, oh, come on, this should be a little more advanced than Sales 101. But in my experience training salespeople, only 20% really get the idea that questions are more important than speeches. Speak 40%, listen 60%. Always try to end statements with a question. That's to keep control of the call so that you don't get derailed. And ask for confirmations all throughout the call. It can be simple as, does that make sense? Do you relate to that? Is that clear? Anything like that, just to get those little acknowledgments that build to a yes. 3rd tip is to probe to understand their problem, the prospect's specific problem, not just the industry's problem. A lot of people will start by saying, I've talked to others in your industry and who experience this frustration, who experience this kind of pain. Is that relevant for you? And if the prospect says yes, then they immediately start jumping into their pitch and talking about their features and benefits. The prospect often, though, is sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute. I mean, that's an industry problem, but my problem is very unique to me and is not the same as all my competitors. So make sure you go beneath the surface and really understand what the unique problem of that business is and that prospect, and how that problem affects their business. Only then should you begin discussing your solution and how you can help with the problem. Tip 4, objections. First of all, I would never accept objections at face value. I always want to dig a little deeper to find out what that real meaning is behind the objection and get some more detail to it. A lot of salespeople are afraid of objections and think that immediately, objection, response. I hear an objection, I've got my response. I like to slow it up and probe further. Okay, so just so I make sure I understand you, is this your issue, or maybe is this? And just keep going down until you're really sure that sometimes you're helping the prospect figure out what the real objection is. And once you get there, then qualify, okay, so if I can solve this very specific problem you have just revealed, are you willing to take the next step? Whatever that step is, whether it's a discovery meeting, whether it's actually, signing the dotted line, whether it's, just whatever next step in the sales process is.
Got it.
And tip 5, be number 2. So about 30 years ago, a guy named Harvey McKay wrote a book, How to Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. And in that sales book, he outlined in detail kind of how to play the long game. Because even if there's no chance at the moment because your prospect is thrilled with their current provider. At some point, sooner or later, that number one will fail and you have an opening. So you want to be positioned yourself as number two. And this, again, something I see way too many salespeople not doing because of the disappointment in not getting the sale or that realization, and they kind of just walk away with their tail between their legs and not leave things on a positive note and not continue to work the prospect and keep themselves in that number two position.
Oh, those are some great tips. Is there ever a time where you don't want to be number two?
It's a good question. Absolutely. You have to make sure in your qualification process, hopefully early on, that this prospect would be a right fit for you and your solution. So if that's not the case, then yeah, I'd rather be number five than number two because I don't want to be wasting time if I'm not a good fit.
That makes a lot of sense. What about note taking during a meeting or even during a Zoom, which is pretty common now that we're doing Zooms? What about the salesperson taking notes while a meeting? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's fine. I mean, first of all, a lot of sales meetings go too quickly. The pace is too quick, and that actually taking notes can actually slow it up a little bit. And I think it also even shows a little bit of vulnerability, like, look, I'm just going to take some notes here to help me remember things. At my age, I would probably even make a joke about it and say, I might not have taken notes when I was 30, but at this point I'm taking notes if you don't mind. So I think it's fine.
That's great. Well, I really do appreciate your 5 tips. It's always very valuable to hear from an expert like yourself, and appreciate everything, Jay. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.